Okay, so I'm sure you can tell by the light expression on my face and the fact that I'm actually happy right now that the interview went well. It was kind of scary. We got there super early. We were there like 45 minutes early. You have to go through a security checkpoint, but it's really fast. You like put your bag through a scanner, walk through a metal detector, take off your shoes, and that's it. And there's usually not even a line. There was like 2 people in front of us. So that goes by really fast, but then you have to sit in the room, but they're very punctual about the time. So if your appointment is at 10 a.m., they are going to be calling your name at 10 on the dot, but they don't really call you earlier or later. I mean, maybe they might call, no, because we definitely waited until our appointment time. And the gentleman that helped us was a bit intimidating at first. He was very serious and definitely was showing his position of authority right off the bat. So when we sat down, he asked for our identification and he said that he was going to go make a copy, but I told him that I already had copies of everything for him. So as soon as I was showing him that I had copies of everything that I was handing him, he lightened up his mood more and more as each question went on. He did try to confuse us a couple of times, asking the same question over and over, like specifically about our address and where our parents lived and things like that, like who lives with us, where do our parents live, who lives in Colorado, who lives in Utah. All the questions that were asked were straight out of the form that we mailed in the first place. So they asked when I first came to the US, what city did I enter into, how did I come in, did I come in legally, did I come in illegally, you know, things like that. So everything that you put into those forms are going to be exactly what they ask. Other than that, they're just going to ask like actual current residency or like previous trips or honeymoon, wedding, you know, just things that, I mean, if your marriage is real, you're going to know these things. My memory is pretty bad, but it's just kind of like obvious things. But it's good to review things just together the night before, go over a sample list of questions just to kind of get your brain moving through all the past information, just so it's fresh on your mind, because otherwise I would just sit there and be like, I don't know, because last night I only had 4 hours of sleep and I can't think very well, especially with a lack of sleep, nervous, you know, it's just easier to have it kind of fresh on your mind.
It's important to review because we would have had no idea about dates of anything if we had not spent the whole week reviewing all of our stuff. We wouldn't have known shit. Even though people think they're going to know because it's your life, we wouldn't have known anything. We'd have been like, I lived there in like 20-something, 2000-something.
It's a very good point that going over all of your dates, all of your evidence that you're using, going over sample questions, I think that really helped us. Because like I said before, we've been married over 3 years. We've been in a relationship for like 5 years. But the thing is that, especially when it's an older relationship, everything just kind of starts to blur together. Like past trips, things like that. It's like, I don't know what year. We just know we did it. We just know we went. So the most important evidence, he said, are actual legal documents. So bills and things like that, it's great, but it's not really as important. They want to see insurance, medical insurance especially, lease agreements, car insurance, bank statements, things that go through actual legal companies or processes, you know? Like I had my phone bills and it showed both of our phone numbers and he just handed me that back. He was like, no, don't need that. So I had his copies and copies for me to know what I've handed over. Because for the citizenship appointment, which will be in 3 more years, I will also need, well, they'll have the past documents, but they'll also be asking for all the current ones. So for the next 3 years, we'll also need to keep collecting all these things to bring into them again. So this process doesn't end quickly. From the time that you get your permanent residency card, you need 3 more years. So you have to be married for 3 years to get your permanent residency card. I think that's what it said on the form, but I might be wrong. And then 3 more years with your permanent residency card. But they definitely want to see pictures, anything that you have that has both of your names, that cards between the family. I put together Christmas cards that his family gave us. I mean, one time we helped some neighbors get out of a ditch and they wrote us a thank you card to both of us and it had both of our names. So I made a photocopy of that. Every single picture of us with the family or together, I printed every single one of them out. I also organized everything from oldest to newest. I labeled everything with sticky notes. He actually told us that we were the most prepared out of anyone he had had in the past month, which made him very pleasant to be around, because the less prepared you are, I feel like the harder they are on you, because you're making their job harder and you're raising more red flags. So the more prepared you are, the more that they're going to believe what you're saying. So they're not going to try to drill you with all these questions and try and trick you. And at the beginning, they did try to trick us a little bit just by asking the same question, phrasing it differently, switching it around, which is probably just like what they do normally. And then the rest of the questions were just like information that we wrote down on our documents just to confirm. We had changed our address right after we filed those documents, but we did do a computer change of address through USCIS. It just wasn't updated on the forms. So he did have to update that, but that also raised a few extra questions for him because there was a change in information. But like I said, because we were so prepared and we had everything ready, labeled, organized, everything that he could think of, because there was some documents that I didn't put enough of. For example, Dan's divorce from his previous marriage, we had only put one document in the papers that we filed. And so apparently that wasn't the right paper, and because we had so many papers from the divorce that we thought that that was the one, and it actually was not the right one. It was close, but so luckily I had thought of that, and I brought all of the divorce papers and made photocopies just in case. Everything that had to do with anything, I had it all in my computer bag. I should probably show you guys when I get home how I organized it, because it was just like manila folders for every single category that I could possibly think of, like one for evidence, one for documents, one for the divorce papers, and just everything, and separated it. And then within those folders, I put sticky notes between every single different thing, like energy bill, auto loan, or, you know, that was obviously for the evidence, birth certificate, or copy, or this or that. So that way I would be able to find it quickly and be able to hand it to him. You want to make the process go as smoothly and as quickly as possible, make their job as easy as you can, because I was watching a lot of YouTube videos the past couple of days just to try to get any idea that I could possibly get of just anything to help us with the process, just because there's things that you don't think of. And there was some people that said that you don't want to give them too much time to think, because if they start to think, they're going to start to have more questions. And so you want to just make it smooth and easy. Even though you know that your marriage is real, they can try to dig up other information that can complicate it. Of course, you want to be over prepared though. You want to be ready with the proper answers to any of their questions, and you don't want to ramble. It's very tempting, especially for me when I'm nervous. I want to just like ramble on and give them more information than they ask for, but they don't like that. They specifically want you to answer the question. Now, if they ask you a question or they ask your spouse a question, make sure that that person answers it, not the other person, because that also will irritate them. And I could tell that this person that we had the interview with could have been triggered if we had been doing any of those things. And you can tell that people do it. That's why right off the bat at the beginning, they seem very...
They want you to know they're not your friend.
Yeah, they want you to know that you guys aren't friends and that they're there to get their job done, and that can be good or bad. And of course, me, when I go in, I want to be pleasant, I want to be smiling, which you should. You should be pleasant and you should be positive, and you want to warm them up to you by the end of the interview, which is exactly what happened. By the time we left, I feel like he was in such a better mood from the time that we went in. When we went in, he felt cold and very stern, and by the time we left, he was very warm and was like, you guys are doing great, and he was explaining what the next step will be. You could just tell, like, halfway through the interview, he just flipped the switch and was just so much warmer. So to have that kind of a positive experience, I would really recommend over prepare. Even if there's papers that you're like, well, I don't know if I'm really going to need these because whatever reason, make a file, and just if you even think that you could possibly need them. I had my computer bag, it's divided into two sides. On one side, I had all the papers that I thought for sure they would be asking for, because my letter said evidence and my medical exam and my legal documents. So I had all of that in the front where it was easy to access and I would be able to find everything very easily. And then I actually brought a copy of everything else just in case. So my DACA documents, they did not tell me to bring those, but in the case that they needed anything from that, I had a copy of every single paper I've ever mailed them. I have always kept a copy of it, which is very good to have because when they start, you want to be able to review the information you've given them. So always keep a copy of every single document you ever mail into the immigration services because it's obvious information and you know the answers once again, but over time it gets fuzzy. You start to forget, it all blurs together and you're like, well, it could have been this year, it could have been that year, but it's good to know specifically exactly what you put down on that paper because that's what they want to know is if you live somewhere from 2012 to 2013, they want to hear that you were there those years, not, well, it was somewhere around 2010, I'm not sure. Like, they don't want to hear not sure, they want to know. And that will really smooth things out. Like I said, I've been here for 20-something years, and this is my very first immigration interview after 20-something years. So, of course, the questions of, like, coming in legally, why didn't you go back to your country? Like, it was not in my control. Obviously, it was my parents, but so that kind of helped with me not being as scared to answer, but I was still very scared when he was asking me those questions because that was at the beginning when he wasn't feeling so warm and he was asking, why didn't you guys leave, you know, or have you left the country ever since, or when, you know, it's like they kind of switch up the questions a few times to see if, you know, if there's anything weird about how you're answering. But luckily I've never left because I knew from the beginning that I wasn't allowed to, and if you leave it causes a problem later on. So at that point, if I had left at any point, I would have probably wanted to get a lawyer because it complicates the process. But if you've been here since you were young, and I mean in my case it's probably more rare to have a situation like mine where I've just been here for so long and finally I'm getting my residency. But once he was just, you know, seeing that it was all legitimate and it's been so long, we've literally already been married for 3 years. So it was just very easy for us because we didn't rush the process. For some people, they don't have the luxury of not rushing the process because, you know, if you're recently into the country, you just have to do things how you have to do them, and that's fine. But it just depends. Every case is different, but over preparation is always going to be brownie points for you, and it worked in our case. I was preparing for days and I made sure everything was ready the night before. We dressed nice. We got dressed in our business casual. I wore slacks. I didn't want to wear a dress. I just wanted to look as conservative as possible and as business as possible. So I figured slacks and a long sleeve shirt. That's my personal choice. But now we're going to go eat some breakfast and celebrate that this is done and over with. This has weighed over my head for so many years. I mean, obviously, if any of you have gone through a similar situation, you know that this is a really big deal and it can be so scary. Many tears, you know, like for many years, it was just very hard. You had to just jump through hoops trying to do things the right way as much as you could, but it's very complicated when you come into a country as a child and things just don't go the way that they should. So I don't know, a lot of us have relatives that might have immigrated into the country, and I don't know, maybe it's easier for some people more than others. My story is a certain way, and who knows, maybe one day I'll write a book because it is interesting for sure, but I don't know, I'll probably have to wait until the journey is fully done and I have my citizenship and the weight is fully lifted off my shoulders. But I think the scariest step was taken today. I can't even describe the feeling that I'm going to have once I have that green card in my hand after so many years. And the day that I can actually go on vacation to the Caribbean, or like just be able to leave the country when I want to and take a vacation like everybody else, have that freedom and that luxury to be able to do that. I've never needed to, you know, it's like I've been fine being here and there's so many beautiful places to see in the United States, but every time that you have to fly over an ocean, even going to Hawaii or anything like that, it's still kind of scary because if for some reason, if something goes wrong where the plane malfunctions and it has to stop in a different country, you're in big trouble if you're not a citizen. And so it's a very scary process to leave the actual, you know, inland and go to any island, even if it's in the United States. A lot of lawyers told me not to ever go to any of the islands because if anything does go wrong, it's better to play it safe than sorry, and it's not worth risking it. Especially for me, I was here for so many years that it's like, after so many years, why would you want to mess it up? If you guys have any questions, please comment them down below. I'll try to answer them with, you know, what I've learned and in my experience. Also, I'll show you guys kind of like the top view of what my bag looked like, because I mean, I was watching people come into the waiting room and people were coming in empty-handed. I don't know what their interviews were for. They might have been totally different, but a lot of people had very small bags and I felt like we had the biggest bag. Like it was, I mean, it literally a computer case, but full of paperwork. But it was very organized and very specific to exactly what we needed. And if I had planned accordingly in the past few years, I would have had even more papers in there, because a lot of our bills didn't show both of our names, because a lot of our bills were under my name, some of them under his name. So you want to make it a point to have the bills under both of your names, and hopefully they show on the bill, because a lot of companies won't print the bills with both names, even if they're both on the account. But the most important things are health insurance and legal documents. So those are the ones that they want to see. But I told him we didn't have medical insurance because as a DACA holder for Obamacare, they wouldn't consider me as an actual human, I guess. So like I don't even know like what exactly they said, but they wouldn't consider my income as a legitimate income. So because I had DACA, so I was not able to get health insurance, which in turn, they also ask you if you have any children together. And sometimes if they really want to dig, they'll ask you why not, or do you plan on having any? And, you know, and we had planned, you know, all of our answers, but because we're not sure if we want to have kids, because he already has 2 little boys. And so we want to make sure that they're taken care of first. But technically, if I don't have health insurance, I don't know that I have any business having any children. Because, like, you know, it's one thing for me not to have health insurance, but for my children not to have health insurance, that's a problem. I'm sure that there's other things that the children could, maybe they would be able to get insurance and maybe just not me. I don't know how that works, but now it won't be a problem, because now my documentation will be very different. And now I think the legal system would actually recognize me as an actual resident of the United States, where I can actually qualify to have actual health insurance. But by the time that happens, within the next month, I guess, I don't know that Obamacare is still really going to be a thing. I feel like they're trying to get rid of it. So I don't know. As of right now, I'm not too worried about the health insurance. Not that it really matters, but I will be collecting other documents for the next 3 years for our citizenship interview. But one thing that we've learned, what is it again? Over preparation. Okay, so finally back home, and figured I can show you guys what I had packed up and what the top of my bag was looking like. I'm not gonna obviously show you guys like each page or document, because it's got all my personal information and it's probably not very smart for me to put that on the internet, but just so you guys can kind of get an idea of how many papers I brought. Here it is. So right here, I mean, you can see how it's separated into 2 sides. On this back half, that's kind of like sealed up, I put my everything that I sent into them. So a folder of all the papers that they had for my adjustment of status, my DACA file, which has nothing to do with this set of papers, but just in case they needed anything, divorce papers and copies, which actually came in handy because they actually needed that. So I thought it wasn't going to be necessary, but it was. And then towards the front, I had all of our like taxes, evidence, original documents like birth certificates and everything, photocopies, and our actual passports. So yeah, I had like the copies, but I mean, you can see this is like full. And then there's 200 pictures in here. The pictures, I had gone through all of my Facebook, my hard drive, I mean, everywhere so both my computers that I've had over the years, I went through every single picture. I asked his family to go through their pictures and send us whatever they could. And then I asked my family if they had any pictures to send them over. So they just I gave them a flash drive each. I just wanted to make sure that they just had something to put them on, so there was just as little inconvenience for them as possible. And so they put all the pictures into the flash drive, and then they mailed it to me, or, know, however. So, and then I went through everything, picked out the better pictures out of all the different days or whatever, trips, and still just ended up with like 200 pictures. Then I just took the flash drive that I had all of them on, took it to Walmart. So many pictures, it was just kind of more than I needed, but they want to see that there's more than they want than too little. So I rambled on for a long time with the whole interview. I just have a lot to say when it comes to that. Just a really big deal. If you guys want me to go over any of like the documents that I had to file or more detail of like what kind of evidence or things like that that they like or that they wanted, I can go into more specifics. You guys can just comment below and let me know what kind of a video you want me to make, if you want me to make any more detailed ones, because I watched a lot of other YouTube videos that were very helpful, and I could probably go over things like that a little more specifically because there was a lot of pointers that were really helpful to me. I think definitely not talking too much and listening to exactly what they say. Treat them as a form of authority. Definitely show them respect. Don't talk over them. So if they ask for something, only answer their question. Don't give them more information than you need to. I know it's tempting sometimes. For me especially, I like to say more than I need to. But the thing is that if they don't ask for it, just don't say it. Keeps the interview short and you can just go on your way as soon as possible. They already have a lot of information and they've already gone through most of the files, so there's really no need to talk more than you need to. Just keep the answers short and sweet. Definitely going over example questions, everything that you can think of, just because there's always details that you just don't think of. But I can make another video on all of that, more detail, all the things that I watched that really helped me out. But I think I pointed out all the most important things in this vlog. If you guys have any questions or anything, let me know in the comments down below. And if you guys want to keep following this journey, definitely subscribe and hit the notifications button so you know when I'm posting more videos. I am always posting vlogs of anything going on in my life. So I'll be posting another one when I actually receive the green card, and I will probably be posting the ones for my citizenship. So I'll keep you guys posted and talk to you soon.